Well, good day, everybody, and welcome back to the one, the only Notes from the Pastor Cave. And the Pastor Cave is quite lovely today, though we are still battling the war of humidity here with our trusty dehumidifier, which I turned off because it makes noise. But otherwise, I love summer weather. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's lovely. Everything is fine with me. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Very important. We are in the eyes of YouTube, we are unviable tissue mass until we reach 1,000. We don't exist. If we could move that along, that'd be great. If you're just finding this for the first time, go ahead and subscribe and hit that little bell so that you get notifications. And obviously be sure to like and comment also, or unlike if you wish. Anything along those lines is fine. We are. Last time around, went to Exodus 23, and just really had one comment. And these are going to be, I don't know, you could call them maybe pick-off comments. We're probably not going to go, line by line in depth with some of these things. But as we go through these chapters, there's certain things that I want to stop on. And this is one I've always really found fascinating. It's much later on. Almost at the end of chapter 23. And God is talking about, through Moses, all of the things he's going to do for the Israelites once they get to Canaan. And really not only that, but what they're going to encounter when they get there. And there are going to be tribes there. So, what he's telling them is don't expect Canaan to be empty when you finally show up there. But rather, there are going to be these tribes there, and you're going to push them out. You're going to force them out, okay? And there's there are various lists: the Hivites, the Canaanites, the Hittites. And then there are sub branches of those too. Also, old pastors joke, the Samsonites, the people who made luggage. But anyways, he's letting them know that these groups are going to be there. And then he says this in verse 29, which, in some sense might bother you a little bit. He says, I will not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the wild beasts multiply against you. Little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and possess the land. Okay? Some really interesting thoughts emerge out of that. And one of them, it might surprise you, is that when we talk about philosophy of government, and what types of governments does God approve of, and which ones does He not approve of? And I'm not going to try to make this video into a political thing. So let me just say this: that you might have your opinions about how God feels about governments, and I might have my opinions about how God feels about governments. But one thing we can definitely be sure of is that God despises anarchy. Okay, so God will actually prefer one form of government which you and I might not agree with. He will allow that over anarchy, because anarchy is the worst government state of humanity. In other words, the lack of government is the worst government state of humanity. And we see that certainly in the times of the judges, where it is written over and over again that each man did that which is right in his own eyes, which is lawlessness, anarchy, and those kinds of things. Because what happens with anarchy is that it actually becomes the non-government part of anarchy becomes the most oppressive part of government. Okay, so if there is no government whatsoever, then I am oppressed beyond anybody else, because anybody, my neighbor, 3 of my neighbors, 10 guys who live down the street, they can come and do unspeakable things to me and violate my human rights as much as they want to, because it's anarchy. There's under anarchy, there's no police to call, right? There's no one that you can go, there's no higher authority that you can go to and say, hey, judge between me and my enemy. This guy did this to me. Because when you have anarchy, you don't have that. And so what you have is you just have, strong men. You have thugs and local gang leaders ruling, whatever is the part of your geography there. So that we know for certain that God is against, and he's saying that here. I don't want anarchy. I don't want to, I could drive these, God could just drive those people out tomorrow, and the Israelites are still like 39 years away from entering Canaan. That's not going to serve anybody, because that emptiness is going to cause kind of a desolation in the land. Nobody's cultivating it. Nobody's doing good things with it, and it will just be kind of overrun, which will not serve the Israelites well. When they get there. I was just at somebody's house last night, and they had just bought the property in the last couple of years, and they were talking about how badly overgrown the property was when they bought it, and we ended up having a little discussion about how quickly nature takes back its own. It just a couple of years, and this beautiful manicured lot was just kind of turned into a jungle, and there were parts of this property that when they bought it, they didn't even know that it was there. There were things in the grass, like little statuesque things, and stone walls that they hadn't even seen before. It was so badly overgrown, and all that had happened in just a couple of years. And that's really in our lives. That's what God is trying to avoid, both physically, like what we just talked about with governments, but also God doesn't want us to be enslaved to personal anarchy either, because certainly that's the same kind of thing can happen inside of us. If we just say that I'm gonna empty myself out of everything and not put anything in that space, then I'm creating actually a problem there. You would think in the first place, it's like, well, that's all right. At least I'm getting rid of those bad things. Paul talks, any of the letters, Galatians, Ephesians, he talks about the idea of taking things out of your life that need to be taken out of your life. And the list is pretty extensive there. But what he always follows that up with, and here's what you should put in. Here's what you see, because Paul understands that a spiritual vacuum is spiritual anarchy, and that's not good for us. So anytime that we're taking something negative out of our lives, that's great, but it doesn't complete the job. Anytime we take something negative out of our lives, we also have to fill something positive into it. And there's all the attributes that are spoken of over and over and over again, holiness and goodness and all of those things that need to happen. And and another angle of that is, so many of us, when we started this journey of following Christ, one of the first things we noticed is that there was, a lot of personal problems in our lives that went away because we now had this commitment to Christ. But we also noticed at the same time there was an awful lot of things that didn't go away. And think, well, okay, Lord, I surrendered to you. I've given my life to you. Why didn't all the troubles go away? Well, this is at least part of the reason here. Part of the reason is that you still live on a broken planet, And we can get into that some other time. But another part of the reason is God says, I will not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the wild beasts multiply against you. So I'm not gonna drive things. I have the power and I have the desire to drive bad things out of your life. Okay? God is very clear about that. But I'm not going to do it all at once. Lots of times, I'm not going to do it all at once because you need to grow to a point to fill in that space of what it is that I'm going to take out. Okay? And I've just seen this over and over, and I'm like, because all along the way of my spiritual journey, I've been frustrated. It's like, why aren't I, when I'm here, why aren't I here? And when I'm here, why aren't I up here? And a good part of the reason for that is just that I need to mature and be seasoned enough at certain seasons of my life where God says, okay, now you're ready to fill in that space. Now you've grown to the point where you understand this and where you are practicing this, and so now I'll pull that that enemy, that tribe out from in front of you. And once we gain an understanding of that, it really helps us a lot to just be patient with what God is doing, to do our part, which is to study God's Word, pray, communicate with Him, spend time worshiping Him. This very, very nice list there of things that are kind of our responsibility to do. And as we do those things, God's still going to do the driving out, but it'll happen in increments in our lives most often. So, all right. Vita brevis gloria aeterna. Life is short, glory is eternal. I've enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you so much.